everyone, this is session 3 of Excel series, and as I said, it's just 10-minute lessons that I do that fits your day and has pro tips from my 4 years of real world analytics, and it can be a path to your entry level job confidence. So today we'll be mainly learning about pivot tables, find and replace. So pivot tables is very important because it is very easy to do and most of the people don't know about it in Excel and it saves a lot of your time. So let's say your manager asked you to create a summary of how much sales has been happened in each of these categories. So this is the data where we have recorded each and every day's what is the sales of a particular product and which category does it belong to. So in that case, what you do is you'll just select all this. You'll Control C, go towards the right, you'll Control V, and you can remove the duplicates using Alt H A M, and yes, it is selecting the column K. Now done. Now what I'll do is to bring in the total here, I'll have to do a formula of is equal to sum ifs. So what does sum ifs do? Sum this column only if, so you can also refer to this formula suggestion bar onto the right, which you see. Sum ifs, sum range. The first before the comma, whatever you select the range should be the sum range. The next one should be the criteria range, and the third one should be the criteria on which this criteria range will be filtered. What does criteria range means? So I want to filter the sum based on the category column, and it should match this particular category which is present here. That means what it does is it sums all the rows which is present here based on what rows here match to this particular value. So if I close this and press on enter, you can see that it has filtered everything for electronics and then summed it up. So how to check that? You can do Control Shift L to apply filter on this data, and then you can click on this category. You can select this electronics. If there is a lot of values in the list, you can just type in here electronics and you can click on apply. So now you got these values. Now if I sum this whole column, you'll get the summation on the bottom right below here, if you can see my arrow here. So this values may be visible for you or may not be visible. To make sure that it is visible, you can click on this smaller drop down here and you can tick mark whichever values you want. It can also show you minimum, maximum, or the number of counts, numerical counts. This count is just the count, like everything. Even the alphabets it can count. Means the cells which has alphabets, so that it can count, whereas this counts only the numbers. I have enabled sum, count and average. That is why those values are visible here. So as you can see, the value is 15,242, which is the same as what we are seeing in this cell. So if I want to distribute it to everything, I can just select all these cells and do Control D, which will move the formula to the rest of the cells. As you can see, it has also moved the cell to the furnitures now, because this is present in the particular row wherever office supplies is present. As the formula moves down through the rows, even the cells which it refers also moves by the rows. Another thing you can ask is why this is not moving, the I and E, because we have selected the whole column, so that doesn't move. Whereas here we had selected a specific cell which moves down. Now, while doing this, it took at least how many minutes for you? At least 5 to 10 minutes. Let's say if your manager comes back and says, no, I wanted product as well beside this. So you'll again add a column here, Alt H I C, and again add the products here. You dedupe it, again do the sum, which is not ideal, right? This is a very quick analysis which we need to do. So for that, what we can do is to remove this filter, we can also again click on Control Shift L. The feature which is very useful in this case is the pivot table. So how to add pivot table? It will be in this Insert tab. So how to go to Insert? Alt N. As you can see, there is a name called pivot table here. So click on V and then click on T. So you'll get a call out here that what is the table range you want. And as you can see, Excel has a capability of wherever the cursor is present, it will select that whole region data. So it has selected the whole table, and you can see this dotted lines moving around the table, which indicates that the whole table is being selected. Now the second call out which it is asking is choose where you want to place this pivot table. Pivot table is nothing but a summary table, similar to how you created this sum, right? Category and total, similar to that. So how to do that? You can either create a new worksheet or place in an existing worksheet. If you're placing it in an existing worksheet, it will ask you to enter the location, like whether in this particular cell you want to place the table, or in the different sheet you want to place the table. So to place it in a different sheet, you can click on numbers and then click on here. So you can see that it has taken H4 and it will place the table there. But for now, I want to create a new sheet because this is a prior series sheet which is present here, which doesn't relate to pivot table. So if I want to create a new sheet, you can select the new sheet and click on OK. As you can see, it created a new sheet beside the insert sheet where the data is present. Now, this is very easy. How you'll do that? Once you select OK, you'll just bring the categories into rows. So rows is nothing but these areas where you want these values, right? So once category is there, then you'll bring in total to values. See, this is very easy. Now let's say your manager came and asked you to put products as well into it. What you'll do, you will just drag it, keep it below the category, voila. You'll get appliances, what are the products within it, what is the summation. Let's say your manager came, he asked you to remove this category, you can just remove it, you'll get the rest. So similarly, let's say I'll just keep this as well. This is not ideal, this doesn't look good. You'll have to keep the category in the top level. So how you can place it, you can just select it and just move it above. Okay. Now, let's say you want to filter it by date. So how to filter it? You can see here itself that you can add filters, you can add columns. So let's say how the columns look. I'll just pull in the regions here, and yes. So for each product, what was the sales that happened in each of these regions, that we can see in the columns. So regions comes in the columns. But for now it is not looking good. Let me remove the regions. You can just click on this check mark. To apply filters, I'll just drag and drop the date into filters. So under the filters, you can select whichever date you want. You can just remove some of them. You can just check for just the month of January 4th and 5th, 2024. You can see only these were sold during that particular time period. So this is how you can use the pivot table. This is high level. Let's go into deeper. So how things work within this. So one of the other items which I want to show here is how to add in slicers. So for example, date, you added it in filters. You can just go here and select for it. But let's say if you want to add it as a slicer, which is more interactive, you can go here, click on add as timeline. So see, you'll slicer. If I just remove the January piece, so I'll get these items filtered by the same. So if I again increase this, you can see few more electronics items are getting added which were sold in January. So this is the use case of add as timeline. So how to add as a slicer? Slicer is nothing but similar to the filter which you have applied. It will come in terms of the list. So currently everything is being selected. That is why you're seeing everything as blue. So if you want to select just one, so you can just click on this. You get whatever was sold on January 3rd. Similarly on January 4th, January 5th, right? So let's say if you want to select two dates within here, so you'll have to press and keep control and then click on 1/4/2024. You'll get both of them. So post this, you can select how much ever you want using the control key, so that you'll get 2 or more rows whatever you are working on. So this is all about the settings which we have here. Now coming to this section, addition of filters, rows and columns doesn't have anything extra, whereas in the values we have a lot of things that we can do. It's not just a sum. So if you click on this drop down, you'll get an option to move to filters. If you want to move this particular column which you have added in the values, that is total column, right? You can move it to filters or move it to rows or move it to columns, or else if you want you can remove the field. But all these we can do even without this drop down. One thing which is very important based on this drop down is value field settings. So if we click on value field settings, so it is not just the sum you can calculate, you can also calculate the number of count of values. What is the average value, maximum, minimum, count of numbers, standard deviation, variance. So you can explore all of this in the data. And not just absolute numbers, you can also showcase percentages. How to do that? You'll go to this show values as tab, and in that you can select for percentage of grand total. So let's click on OK. Let's see. So among the overall grand total which we are showing here, what is the percentage share of this? Electronics, furniture, appliances, and even within electronics, what was the percentage share of LED, noise cancellation, headphones? You can see that if I sum these two, you can check the sum here, 70.33. That is what is shown in the electronics total. So you can easily understand what is the percentage share of sales of each of these sections, right? This is so cool. Let me go back to no calculations. Okay, so it'll get us on the only the sum. Now we explored this part of show field settings. So you can also see a pop-up here or a new tab being created for the pivot table when you create a pivot table. So if you click on the pivot table, you get a few more options here. So if you see here, the field list is open, which is the right sidebar which is here. If I click on it, it will get closed. If you click again on it, it will get open. Similarly, buttons are nothing but, let's say if I click on electronics, it will be more visible for you. So if I click on electronics, it will combine all the rows which is present under electronics within itself and create a final total 1920. Whereas you can just keep it open like this. So if you don't want those buttons to be visible so that the user will not do those minimize or maximize, then you can click on this and those buttons won't be available. You cannot minimize these values, sub values which are present. So if you want, you can click on the plus or minus. Now, so within this refresh all, what does it mean is, let's say this LED monitor 27 inches, 1320. Let's say due to some reason we had to change it to 1000 rupees in the backend. Do you see that visible here? No, right? Although the raw data is updated, it is not visible here. So if you want to make it visible, you'll have to go to pivot table and click on refresh. See? It updated here even in the pivot table as well. So it's just this refresh which you need to do. So you'll get option for refresh all and refresh the database. So you can click on refresh all, which is more useful. Now, if you want to change the data source, you can click on this, similar to how we change in the charts, right? So if you want to change the data source from here to, let's say there is a new table which is present, you can select the new table if you want. I don't want to change the data source now. So post that we have insert slicer, insert timeline, which is the same as both these two. This is a slicer, this is timeline. And then you can give a name to this pivot table as well. And then move to pivot table. So let's say pivot table is present in this particular area, you can move it to a different sheet. So that is what is available here. So this show details, why it is not getting highlighted currently? Because you have kept it on a value present here, which is just the nomenclature. Whereas if you click on a particular sales value, which is a derived value, which is basically this summation mark you see in my arrow mark, right? This value. So whatever the columns which is present in this value, only if you place your cursor on those columns, you'll get this highlighted. So what does it do? So if you click on show details, let me put it on electronic so it is more easier. So if I click on show details, you'll see all the rows which are adding up to this particular value will be placed in a different sheet, detail one sheet which it created. So all those values will come here. Let's say I had not put this product column into this. Let's say if I remove this. Okay, so now you don't know what are the elements within that are present within this, right? In that case, this will be very helpful. So if you click on show details, again it will create a sheet where it shows how that 1600 it is coming to using what values. So this is used in that case. Okay, so we got to know about show details. Now row headers, column headers, banded rows is nothing but it just adds the borders. Banded columns is nothing but even there it added these light blue borders, right? Suppose that you can change the pivot styles, whatever style you want, you can change it here. So yes, this is all about pivot table and it will be really helpful if you use this in your use cases. So once pivot is done, I had two more things to say, which I should have mentioned during my prior series, but it got left out. These are very simple ones. So let's say if you want to identify if mouse was sold in the prior few months in this data, if the mouse data is present. So what you can do is Control F. Control F is for finding a particular value. So MOUSE. Now find next, if you do, you'll get this data wherever mouse was present. Okay, so find all, if you click, it'll show you what is the cell that finds this mouse. So D8 also has, D54 also has mouse. So if I go to D8, see, even that is being highlighted. You also have some search options here. What does it do? So if you want to search it within the whole workbook across all the sheets, you can click on workbook. If it is just this sheet you want to search it for, you can click on sheet. And then direction. So let's say my cursor was present here. So since I have mentioned it as down direction, so if I click on find next, it will go to 54. So let's say if I had kept my mouse here and if I given it a direction as up and find next, it will go to the D8 and not D54 because I'm asking it to check it in the upward direction or downward direction with respect to the mouse wherever I have kept my mouse on. Say, if you want to make sure that the whole row has this value, so then you can click on this match entire cell contents and then click on find next. See, it says we couldn't find although the mouse is present here because we have mentioned that match this entire cell contents. So let's say if I make it as coffee and search for it, it says I couldn't find anything. Okay, but if I make it as maker, the whole word which is present here, I'm making it, see, it was able to identify because I have mentioned match entire cell contents. So that is how this works. This match case is not of much use. This always matches. Even if you, basically the intention of this match case was, let's say if I just do AKE. So wherever it finds that kind of a combination AKE string sequence, it'll highlight it. So this was the use case of match case, but even if I don't highlight it, it does the same work. Okay, so that is not of a much use case. So this is all about find. I'll go to this replace, but I'll show you the shortcut. So let's say you wanted to replace a particular string with something else. So for that, the shortcut is Alt plus H. So press and keep the Control button and then click on H. So sorry, I mentioned Alt H, it is Control H. So in replace, you can just replace whatever word you want with whatever string you want to replace it with. Let's say I wanted to replace this LED, which is in capital, with just LED. Replace, yes. So now it is replacing. See? So if I click on replace, it is getting replaced. But let's say if you want to replace it at once and everything, so then just replace all. Okay, now since it got replaced already, so it is showing we cannot find any matches, but if you click on replace all, it will replace everything. This also works in the same way. You can select the sheet or the whole workbook, and then if you want to ask it to go in the down direction of the cursor, you can mark it, or else in the upper direction. You can click on it, match the entire cells if you want to replace only those cells which has LED only in the cell, nothing else. So then you can use match entire cell contents. So this is how find and replace works. Okay, so this is all about this series and hope you enjoyed. Let's meet in the next section.